You've probably seen the news that Apple recently released the new M3 MacBook Air in both 13 and 15-inch sizes. But Apple also released a newly affordable Mac that kinda slipped under the radar, the M1 MacBook Air. But is it a good deal? While technically more than 3 years old, the M1 MacBook Air is being heavily discounted, and it's being sold exclusively in Walmart, of all places. This marks the first time the mega retailer has stocked a Mac in its stores. Tim Cook really is a supply chain kind of guy. At $699, the M1 MacBook Air is $300 less than the MSRP of the M2 MacBook Airs and $400 less than the M3 models. This begs the question, is it better to nab the M1 MacBook Air or spend a bit more and get the M2 or M3 versions? Looking at the performance, there is quite a difference between the trio of processors. In Geekbench 6, the M3 had nearly double the performance of the M1 chip. The multi-core followed suit, again nearly double that of what we saw in the M1 chip. Don't get me wrong, just because the M3 is more powerful doesn't mean the M1 is a bad chip by any means. But the question is on the value that added performance delivers and how you plan on using the machine. When it comes to the choice between the M2 and the M3, I easily think the M3 is worth the $100 price premium. The decision really should just be between the $699 M1 MacBook Air and the $1099 M3 MacBook Air. Don't even worry about the M2 model. A lot of people who buy the MacBook Air use it to surf the web, hang around social media, watch some excellent YouTube videos perhaps, and maybe open an Office application or two. For people who have those typical workloads, the M1 is a really appealing machine. So aside from the processor, what are some of the other major differences? And when are you actually going to feel those differences? I'm sorry. I hate to rudely interrupt myself in the middle of a video because I have more cool things to talk about. But before we get to them, I have to thank our sponsor for this video, iVANKY, that recently launched its FusionDock Max 1. It's designed exclusively for Apple Silicon Mac users and is the only dock on the market with a dual Thunderbolt connection. It is outfitted with 20 different ports, including plenty of USB-C, legacy USB-A, a fast 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, audio jacks, and HDMI. Here's one of my favorite things about it though, is I love how all of the USB ports are standardized in full speed. Sometimes you get ones that are like 10 gigabit or 5 gigabit and you have to pick and choose which ones you're connecting your peripherals to based on what you're doing. No, not with this hub. It's a similar story with the monitor situation. Personally, I use USB-C and HDMI for my monitors. Rarely ever DisplayPort. Yet, most other docks that I have reviewed include a DisplayPort connection on the back. iVANKY chose what makes sense for its actual users. Most Apple users are out there using USB-C and HDMI. I love that those are the options here. Plus, on the top of the line Mac, you can actually run 4 monitors at once with this thing. That's absolutely incredible and unheard of in this market. The whole dock is powered by 2 Thunderbolt chips on the inside, so you know this thing is not going to lag. And the dock floats in the air, which promotes good airflow to keep it cool while it's sitting on your desk. If you're like me and you want to upgrade your workflow, check out the iVANKY FusionDock Max 1. It's linked down below in the description as well as pinned in the comments. Now, let's go get back to the rest of the video. Well, the M1 MacBook Air uses Apple's legacy tapered wedge design with a 13.3-inch display. The M2 and M3 both move to a uniform body with smaller bezels and a larger 13.6-inch screen. They also come in colors that the M1 doesn't offer. So if you're looking to dazzle everybody at your local coffee shop with a Starlight MacBook Air, you're going to have to choose the M2 or the M3. By the way, as a bit of an aside, I know a lot of people loved that tapered design of the old MacBook Air, but I was never a huge fan. I love this new uniform body that the M2 and M3 versions switched to, but I want to know what you guys think. Which one do you guys prefer? Sound off down below in the comments. Anyway, the display on the newer models is also 25% brighter, increasing from 400 to 500 nits. If you do lots of work outside or on the go, this could be very important to you. When you're not out and about, The M3 is capable of running 2 external displays when the lid is closed. The M1 will only ever be capable of powering 1 external display. You probably already know whether that matters to you or not. There's also a significant graphical performance between the M1 and the M3. Now, when I did run these benchmarks, I was testing the 10 core of the M3, so it's a little bit higher than when you compare the 8 core to the 8 core, but still, it's a big boost in graphical power. Apple says that if you do opt for that 10 core version, you should see a 63% improvement in terms of performance on the graphics when compared to the M1. It's pretty substantial. So when will graphics be important? Well, again, depends on the workload of your machine. If you're looking at that typical daily workflow I talked about before, probably not all that much. It just won't make much of a difference. But if you're doing things like editing some movies in Final Cut or iMovie, maybe you want to edit some photos in like Photoshop or Affinity Photo, or maybe you're looking at playing some light games, those things will definitely be improved with better graphics. In terms of the other specs, Apple kept things pretty consistent. Both the M1 and the M3 start with 8 gigs of unified memory, though the M3 version can be upgraded higher. If you're planning on upgrading the memory, I'd lean towards the M3 version. Similar goes with the SSDs, both of them start off with 256 and can be upgraded to 2 terabytes. Finally, the M3 supports Wi-Fi 6E and has an upgraded FaceTime camera. This is just a nice addition if your network supports it, and an upgrade to camera quality is absolutely always welcomed. But I think the biggest trade-off is lifespan. At already 3.5 years old, the M1 MacBook Air is certainly going to give you less useful years than a new M3 would. If you want to buy a Mac and have it last as long as possible, the M3 is the way to go. If, however, you are on a budget, perhaps a student, the M1 is a fantastic option. It'll easily get you through 4 years of higher education. At $699, it is a great price, especially considering the PC alternatives. I still recommend the M3 MacBook Air, and the 15-inch is my hands-down go-to recommendation. Check out my other video if you want to learn why, which is linked here somewhere. But when you need to save some cash and your workload isn't super heavy, the M1 is a really great choice. But what do you all think? Is $699 a good price for a 3-year-old Mac? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you're interested in the M1 Mac or the new M3 Macs, there is a link to our price guide down below in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe with notifications turned on, so that way you'll be updated every time a new video goes live. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.